Okay, welcome back. As promised, I said we would start up again with Herzberg's hygiene theory. I really like this because it incorporates two things. One, it says people are motivated by motivational factors, right? And that's, in essence, um, what Maslow was saying on the last set of slides. But secondly, Herzberg says, well, there are also hygiene factors, not just motivation factors. And there are factors that cause dissatisfaction if they're not present. For example, if I have a bad working condition, even though I like my job, right? And I'm motivated because I like my boss. The hygiene factors can drive me away, but they don't motivate. But they do not motivate workers more, right? So, for example, in the Air Force, in my career, I would get a 1% raise a year. Did it really matter? Did it motivate me to work harder? Absolutely not, right? I worked the same. But I'll be honest, take away that 1%, that would have been a little more frustrating, right? But that 1% was not motivating me. So if I take good conditions and improve them a little bit, I'm not really motivating. Instead, focus on the motivational factors that really make a difference. Now, McClellan's theory of needs, it says there are three needs. There's a need for achievement. Some people have a need for affiliation. Some people have a need for power. And this sense of power can be a need for power or desire that is not good, or it could be good, right? So we're not really defining which. You have to assess your people. Some people just want to be recognized, have a challenging project, and achieve something. Some people want to be part of a great group. It's one reason I stayed in the Air Force for so long. I liked being part of a great organization, right? That's McClellan's acquired theory needs. McGregor has theory X and theory Y. And basically, a theory X leader assumes that workers dislike and avoid work. So you're going to drive them. Where theory X leader assumes people consider work natural, just as much as play or rest, and that people enjoy the work and the esteem and the self-actualization needs that come with it. If you give them a task and some guidance, they're going to run with it in theory Y. And this is most of the world that we live in. But yet I still find plenty of theory X leaders out there that in the end drive people away and don't motivate. They have recently added theory Z, which emphasizes motivating workers and increasing loyalty by providing a job for life with a strong focus on the well-being of the employee. Something for you to consider. Media snapshots, I love those in the literature, but I'm going to leave that for your own reading, right? And so Thamhein and Willman have ways to have influence on projects, and that can be your authority, right, which is often legitimate, right? This would be a position power is how I term it, position power. That's legitimate. Maybe it's by your assignment, right, in the project. Maybe it's because you manage the budget. Maybe it's because you have the ability to promote people. Maybe you have the ability to offer them a bonus or increase their pay, right? These are things that can bring power. So there's reward power is best, right? Always. There's punishment power, which is really we would consider the worst, right? We don't want to use that. We want to find solutions before we get there, okay? So there are lots of ways. There are even other forms of influence like an administrative assistant. Oh, there's penalty power, which is the ability to cause punishment. Really seek to avoid that. That is not positive. You want influence that is positive, okay? And so you want to provide work that is challenging. One of the things I used to ask my technologists and my project managers at the start of every year, I'd say, here are a list of projects, and I'd take my best workers as as a reward, and offer them their project of choice. and then I would go down the list. So they had something challenging and interesting that they really enjoyed. Another form of power is expert power, expertise, subject matter experts. And this sort of power is very real. You're not the boss, but if you're the one that's the expert, people respect you. Friendship power can also be useful as well. There are ways then to hurt projects, right? Or help them. Projects are more likely to succeed when you're using expert power and that the work is fun and challenging and you're working together as a group. They're more likely to fail if a project manager is more heavily focused on their authority. So they may force issues. Forcing is not the best way to go. Or if they focus too heavily on the money or penalty power along the way. Now, projects can be effective, and project managers can apply Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He did not write that book for project managers, but it certainly is in lockstep with who we are about being proactive. Here's my favorite saying of his: begin with the end in mind, whether it's the project or a process or even the day's work, right? Put things first, think win-win, right? That certainly has got to be motivational. And seek to understand. So listen and then be understood, right? Then speak would be the way I would say that, etc. So you're synergizing the team along the way. Empathy. Walk a mile in their shoes, right? Think like they think, which is one of the reasons I would do, and we've talked this now the 3rd time, management by walking around. Sometimes I would ask the people about the job or about something that some specific detail because I'm trying to solve a problem. But sometimes I would avoid that and just ask people about them. How are they doing? How's the family? Are you coming to the unit picnic next month, etc., to create that rapport, right? And empathetic people will mirror. Mirroring is the matching of certain behaviors with other people. When I go to a job interview, I often mirror the person that's interviewing me along the way, for example. Okay, I love these parts from the book, What Went Right. You can pause the video yourself and review that. It is worth your time, so I highly recommend it. In executing projects, we're also acquiring resources. Resources can be the people on your team. They will come on and off your team in a waterfall or predictive project as you need them. But acquiring resources can also be equipment as well. So both physical and human resources along the way. Maybe you lease them, maybe you make them, right? There's a lot of balls in the air when it comes to resourcing. In fact, resource management is tied very closely to cost management, and it's tied very closely to schedule management. Cost, schedule, and resources are the only 3 areas in project management that do estimating activities. So you can imagine there's a lot of focus and interaction going on there. Resource loading. There's a term that we use often as project managers, and that tells us about the amount of individual resources and the existing schedule. So we can load resources or smooth them out, right? We want to be careful to not over-allocate. Over-allocating means that the more sources are available more resources than are available are assigned to perform a work, and that's of course going to set you behind. Okay, a lot of times to manage resources I use what's called a resource histogram. And what is a histogram? A histogram, just simply put, is a bar chart, right? And so here's a bar chart though focused on my resources, and it's watching out for whether I'm over allocating or whether I'm right on. So this is 100% as the slide says, and this is good, right? Anything above, I'm over allocating. And I want to take a look at that and how can I manage that better. One way to do it is by resource leveling. That's a technique for resolving resource conflicts. You may have to delay tasks. So on this slide, right, in order to resource level, I may have to delay tasks. So instead of task, 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 I may have to task, delay, task to make sure I have the resources available. But you want to work that into your plan before you get started. This is a good example. It is well reviewed inside the book itself. So, of course, there are lots of benefits. You have a more consistent basis along the way. You're able to implement people and have fewer problems along the way. It improves morale when you just keep clicking along. I love it. So resource smoothing is really also known as time-constrained scheduling, right? So here's an example where we have limited resources, and if I have limited resources, it's really going to extend out my project and make it longer because I need more people. I just don't have them. So activities in my schedule are going to take longer, right? And so one of the things I can do is to smooth out my resources along the way. Okay, skipping through the example and team assignments now. Here's a sample team roster as a way of keeping track of my team and where they're at and how to contact them. I don't find that terribly useful, but it is an important artifact that you'd want to collect up front. Now, what's really important when I'm executing projects is developing that team. And really, I'm trying to develop that team to high performing A high-performing team operates with synergy. They operate on their own. They know what they're doing. I remind them once in a while, but they're on it. And they're out helping each other because they know Susie's going to need a product tomorrow. They just deliver it without being asked, right? That's what a high-performing team is doing. But to get there takes time. And so we consider Tuckman's model of team development. Tuckman says Tuckman actually only talked about these 4 stages. Later, PMI, Project Management Institute, has added this 5th stage, which is still valuable. But he says teams go through forming, storming, norming, and performing before they adjourn after the project. And so when they form, it's really very social. It's agreeing. People are looking to avoid conflict. But then storming will happen. Storming, and every team goes through all these stages. Every team. I'm not saying how long they go through them. Maybe they move through storming very quickly, but every team will go through them. So every team will go through these stages. And what you always have to be careful is once you get past storming into norming, you have to be careful that the team doesn't fall back. So in storming, people become confrontational, argumentative. A lot of times this is solved by good communication and by an understanding of the vision, mission, goals, and clear roles and responsibilities assigned. The goal, and then you get the team to norming. In norming, they are operating together, right? You're still reminding them of a lot of things, but they're becoming synergistic. In performing, I see that as high performing. And that is a sense that they got this, right? And they operate as a team almost independent of you. You as a project manager become a guide at that point among anything else. So it's kind of cool. In execution, don't forget training. If you need training, do training, right? Get the team members up to speed on the expertise that you need them to have along the way. Okay, very important point. And work that into your resource management plan and, of course, your budget as well. I am a huge fan of Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. I am ENTJ, just FYI. You can if you Google it, you can get a free online version, which usually is about 25 questions, and it'll tell you what type you're on. Notice it's a personality preference. I find it very useful, and I think you will as well. Okay, see you in the next lesson.